Sign of the Beaver, Chapter 18. Over and over, though he knew the number only too well, Matt counted his notched sticks. He kept hoping he had made a mistake. Always were the same 10 sticks. That meant that August had long since gone by. He couldn't remember exactly how many days belonged to each month, but anyway he reckoned it, the month of September must be almost over. He only needed to look about him. The maple trees circling the cleared flamed scarlet. The birches and aspens glowed yellow, holding a sunlight of their own, even on misty days. The woods became quieter. Jays still screamed at him, and chickadees twittered softly in the trees, but the songbirds had disappeared. Twice he had heard a faraway trumpeting, and had seen long straggles of wild geese like trailing smoke high in the air, moving south. In the morning, when he stepped out of the cabin, the frosty air nipped his nose. The noonday was warm as midsummer, but when it came inside at dusk, he hurried to stir up by the fire. There was a chilliness inside him, as well as that neither the sun nor the fire ever quite reached. It seemed to him that day by day the shadow of the forest moved closer to the cabin. Why was his family so late in coming? He was troubled, too, because the autumn weather seemed to have brought about a restlessness in Etienne. There were days when the Indian boy did not come. He never offered a word of explanation. After a day or two, he would simply walk into the cabin and sit down at the table. He rarely suggested that they hunt or fish together. Day after day, Matt tramped the woods alone, trying to shake the doubts that walked beside him like his own shadow. As he walked, Matt was careful to cut blazes in the barks of trees. They gave him courage to walk further into the forest than he had ever dared before, since he was sure of finding his way back to the cabin. He also watched for Indian signs, and sometimes he was sure he had detected one. One day, looking up, he saw on a nearby tree the sign of the turtle. Time to turn back, he told himself. He felt secure now in the territory of the beaver, but he wasn't so certain that a strange people would welcome a white trespasser. As he started to retrace his steps, he heard some distance away the sharp, high-pitched yelp of a dog. It didn't sound threatening, but neither did it sound like the happy, excited bark of a hound that had a scented rabbit. It sounded almost like the scream of a child. When it came again, it died away into a low whining, and he remembered the trapped fox. Etienne had warned him to have nothing to do with a turtle trap, but he hesitated, and the sound came again. No matter what Etienne had told him, he could not bring himself to walk away from the sound. Warily, he made his way through the brush. It was a dog, a scrawny Indian dog, dirt-caked and bloody. As Matt moved closer, he saw through the blood the white streak down the side of its face, then the chewed ear and the stubby porcupine quills. Only one dog in the world looked like that. It was caught by its foreleg, just as the fox had been, and it was frantic with pain and fear. Its eyes were glazed, and white foam dripped from its open jaws. Matt felt his own muscles tense with anger. His mind was made up in an instant. It had been bad enough to leave a fox to suffer. Turtle tribe or no, he was not going to walk away from Etienne's dog. Somehow, he had to get that dog out of the trap. But how? As he bent down, the dog snapped at him so ferociously that he jumped back. Even if it recognized him, Etienne's dog had never learned to trust him. Now it was too crazed to understand that Matt meant to help. Matt set his teeth and stooped again. This time he got his hands on the steel bands of the trap and gave it a tug. With a deep growl, the dog snapped at him again. Matt started, scraping his hands against the steel teeth. He leapt to his feet and stared at the red gash that ran from his knuckles to his wrist. It was no use, he realized. There was no way he could get that trap open with the dog in his maddened state. Somehow he would have to find Etienne. He began to run through the forest, back over the way he had come, back along the trails he knew, searching his memory for the signs he remembered that led to the Indian village. Luck was with him. There was the sign of the beaver cut into the tree, and here were the fallen logs. He was never absolutely sure, but he knew he walked in the right direction, and after nearly an hour, to his great relief, he came out of the shore of the river. There was no canoe waiting, as there had been when Etienne had led him there. But the river was narrow and placid. Thank goodness he had grown up near the ocean, and his father had taken him swimming from the time he could walk. He left his moccasins hidden under a bush and plunged in. In a few moments he came out, dripping, within the sight of the stockade. He was greeted by a frenzied barking of dogs. They burst through the stockade and rushed towards him, halting only a few feet away, menacing him so furiously that he dared not take another step. Behind them came a group of girls who quieted the dogs with shrill cries and blows. "I have come for Etienne," Matt said when he could make himself heard. The girls stared at him. Tired, wet, and ashamed of showing his fear of the dogs, Matt could not summon up any politeness or dignity. "Etienne," he repeated impatiently. One girl, bolder than the others, answered him, flaunting her knowledge of the white man's language. "Etienne not here," she told him. "Then Sackness." "Sackness not here." All gone hunt. Desperately, Matt seized his only remaining chance. "Etienne's grandmother," he demanded. "I must see her." The girls looked at each other uneasily. Matt pulled back his shoulders and tried to put his voice the stern authority that belonged to Sackness. "It is important," he said. "Please show me where to find her." Amazingly, his blustering had an effect. After some whispering, the girls moved back out of his way. "Come," the leading girl ordered, and he followed her through the gate. He was not surprised that she led him straight to the most substantial cabin in the clearing. He had recognized on the night of the feast that Sackness was a chief. Now, facing in the doorway, was a figure even more impressive than the old man. She was an aging woman, gaunt and wrinkled, but still handsome. Her black braids were edged with white. She stood erect, her lips set in a foreboding line, her eyes brilliant, with no hint of welcome. Could he make her understand? Matt worried and